So welcome back to the Tool Shed. This tool is called Absolutes. It is about getting clear in your life. It can be within relationships. It can be at what I call crossroads, one of these life's T's, transitions, test trials, traumas, tragedies. These are the moments when we need to have already taken an inventory of what are our absolutes, what are our core values, what are those things that if we start messing with in our life, if we start equivocating on, if we start qualifying, fudging the edges, we are on the pathway to hell. So when I'm working with people in general, men in particular, helping them get clear about what are my absolutes. Now, first of all, it's not bullshit, right? It's not about like coming up with cliche absolutes. It's about the process of getting clear. So don't just throw down some labels, some words on a note card. Go through a process. Here's an example of how we delude ourselves. I use this one often. So just had a daughter turn 16 as I'm recording this a few days ago. She's my third to drive. And I've learned enough now to know the difference between the first kid and the third kid. The first kid, especially if you ask at least my wife, Ariella, oftentimes it is the mother, but not always. What's your number one value for these kids? Ariella would have said, if they're going to drive, the number one value is, you know it, to be safe. Not true. It's not true. That's not her number one value. That's not her absolute. She said, she would have said, yes, it is my absolute. They must be safe. Okay, well, if that's your absolute, they're not getting their license. Because the moment they get their license, they are not as safe as they were before the license. The moment they get behind the wheel, right, they are no longer as safe as if I was driving, having 40, 30 years under my belt of driving. So your number one value isn't safety, but it is safety. Okay, fine. So then let's get them a tank, because driving a Honda Civic is not as safe as driving a tank. Well, we don't do that because one of our absolutes is, we're not going to go broke over buying a tank. But another absolute is for us that having, freedom to move about. You got a tank, she drives a bus, right? There are other consequences. She's safe, but again, it's not the absolute because we want her to have freedom. We want her to, be out in the world and navigate it like everybody else and find her way. There are all kinds of things in there that change that absolute. Now, there are absolutes in life, right? So one of my absolutes is that I will not live or be in a profession where I don't feel that I have absolute integrity. I did that for 15, 20 years as a rabbi. Not that I was a liar, but there was a piece of me that was out of alignment, and I always knew it. I always felt like I was doing somebody else's job, that I'd have to qualify the truth, that I don't fully believe in this stuff, not exactly as it's laid out in, that in American Judaism and in an organized religion and in this synagogue, and yet I sort of forced myself into the mold, and I paid a heavy price. I write a lot about it in my new book, Man Uprising. I paid a price for qualifying my absolutes. I see it with people in marriages where they've given up on some of their absolutes. An absolute like, I need intimacy if I'm entering into this marriage. And yet many people I've counseled have gone years without intimacy, without physical intimacy, without sexual contact, without certainly emotional intimacy, and they gave up on it. They qualified it because divorces are expensive, or the kids are in the house, or you name it. Now, I'm not telling you to get divorced. I'm not telling you to put your kid behind the wheel. Whatever it is, all I'm saying is it's about getting clear with what are my absolutes on this top line. And think of it almost in red, like when you get when you're driving your car and your RPMs get to the red zone, you better not get up in that red zone. Your engine's going to blow. You better not violate those absolutes or your life is going to blow. It's going to fall apart, or you're going to crush your soul. Watch another tool I have called the Kavorka. Great tool, but that's what oftentimes men lose when they give up on their absolutes. So get clear about your absolutes. It can't be 20 absolutes. That's not how life works. It's got to be a handful. In my experience, it's 3 to 5. Whatever those are, get clear on a card or on your phone or however you go about, but the process. And really write out. Don't just bullshit yourself. Again, my absolute is integrity. No, my absolute is integrity. That means that I will live a whole life. Integrity means integral, whole. I will not compartmentalize who I am to do a job, as an example for me. I will not conform, right, or hide or mute my voice if that's what it requires to be in that particular job. I can't do it. I don't care if they pay me $10 million a year, I won't do it. And so that's an absolute, and it's defined and it's specific. You don't get to say absolute is money. That's not an absolute. But maybe I talked to somebody who said absolute for them is even though they have an incredible income, it's about not wasting money. It's about not spending frivolously. Even if they have it, even if their spouse is used to it, their kids are used to it, we're going to tighten the belt. Not so simply we can save, because that's not the issue, but I can't live a life where we don't appreciate the value of this dollar, however many I have. So that's a specific around money. You go through the process, find your absolute. Now, next level down, I'm not going to go too deep into this one because I'm already at sort of my limit. You have absolutes in red. You have needs in orange. Needs are not absolutes, but they're needs. I can live without them, right? I will not die. I will not sacrifice who I am if I'm not getting those needs met. But I really have to think about those things seriously. And am I giving up on them? Which ones can I move down to the next category that aren't exactly needs? They're much more wants. So you have absolutes in red, you have needs in orange, and you have wants in yellow. Now these are the things that they're nice, they're great, but they're movable, they're malleable. Right? You do not make your stand with your spouse or in your job over wants. That is not an absolute. That's not even a need. These things are absolutely negotiable, and you need to have more wants than needs and more needs than absolutes. So if you have 3 to 5 or however many you have in the absolutes, underneath that, you have a longer list. Maybe come up with, and I encourage you, but you don't have to do this part, come up with 10. These are needs. Again, I'm going to fight like heck to defend them. Why did I say heck? I don't even know. I'm so used to muting my voice for a congregation years back, right? It's what in the hell, right? And it's that intensity, and that's that. I'm willing to negotiate these needs, but I'm not willing to give up on them, but I'm also not going to make my last stand on them. And then the wants are tons and tons of things where maybe they were up in the needs before and I need to get more out of there, because if I'm going to be in a relationship, if I'm going to do this thing, I'm going to have a few up here, more here, and a lot more down here. And that means really moving those things out of the top categories down below so that people can take it seriously, because you have too many absolutes or too many needs and you make your stand over those things, it's just a bunch of noise. Nobody hears you. Nobody takes it seriously. You don't take it seriously. Get clear about your absolutes. Communicate those. Make your stand on those. Ask your partner, your spouse, or whomever you're dealing with to understand those. Explain it to them. Talk about how you cannot equivocate them on them or qualify them or bend on them. Or, as an example, if you do, she no longer has her husband, the man she married. It's a version of him. It's a version of you. It's a variation of you. It's a fraction of you, but it's not you. And she wants to be married to you. That's why she married you in the first place. But over time, if we give up on those absolutes, it's not you. It's a version, and communicate that to her, that you need me and want me to hold on to these absolutes, and I need you to understand I can't negotiate. Now go down to the next category, needs. Talk about those, negotiate around those. Don't give up on them easily, but also don't treat them as absolutes. And again, last but not least, these are my wants. I would communicate to your spouse, these are what I want. It's genuine, it's legitimate, but I'm not going to make my stand. But then she knows yours, and ask her to do the same. and you can communicate so much more effectively. You can respect each other. Never, you don't have to like her absolutes, but you have to understand if they truly are absolutes, then you can't ask her to change. You got to give up on those things. You will have a clash if you have the same absolutes and they're contradictory. We'll cross that bridge when we get there. More often than not, the clarifying process will get you to realize, opposites attract, and in so many ways, you probably have very different absolutes, and life will be much more manageable, clear, and meaningful. You'll feel a deeper connection to your partner, to the situation, your job, but most of all, to yourself.